Well, I haven't done too many response videos in the last month or so. I'm trying to keep up with my daily videos and doing the trivia videos that I get up every Wednesday, but even that's been difficult at times. But I want to get back into doing a couple more response videos. Now, the last responses I did were all to YouTube Shorts. I mean, I think the longest video I responded to was like 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Very short. These next few videos that I'm doing responses to here are a little bit longer. I think these range from 4 to 6 minutes in length. So they're not real long videos, but they're a little longer. And so, I mean, my responses were on average about 5 minutes. These will probably average 10 to 12. That's what I'm anticipating. I will also say I have not watched any of these. So these are more a reaction than a response. I mean, I am responding, but I'm reacting to them. This is the first time I've seen these videos. So we will see how that goes. Now, after I get these 3 done, my next couple, I do want to do some longer videos. I got a couple of videos that are about a half hour long each, and those will be done in multiple parts. All of these videos, however, are somewhat old. The ones I'm reacting to here are, I found them, several weeks ago, at least a month maybe. So they're out of the public conscience, you might say. I'm not responding to anything that is immediately recent. I just don't have the time right now to do an immediate response to things. I find something as I'm scrolling through, and so I'd like to do a response to this when I can get the time. And so I'll save that video, and when I get the time, as I am now, doing a response to it. So that's how this is going to be going. Now, this first video is titled, Paul Debunked Islam and Mormonism 2,000 Years Ago. So we're going to listen to this. This is a short one, about 4.5 minutes long. Let's see what they say.
What if a single verse from the Bible written almost 2,000 years ago perfectly exposed 2 of the world's largest religions before they even started? Sounds wild, right? But stick with me because this isn't some crazy theory, it's straight from scripture. And the connection is absolutely shocking. Before we unpack this, if you guys like Christian videos, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe to my channel down below if you are new, and turn on my post notifications so you never miss a new video. Now imagine this. A man in the 1st century writes a letter so precise in its warning, it exposes major world religions that won't exist for hundreds or even thousands of years. That man is the Apostle Paul. From the very beginning, Paul was battling false teachings that misconstrued the divinity of Jesus Christ, denying that he is fully God, the eternal Son, one with the Father. Now around 50 AD, Paul is writing to the churches in Galatia, and he is absolutely furious. Why? Because false teachers had infiltrated the church and were misconstruing and distorting the identity and gospel of Jesus Christ.
I can already see where this is going. He's going to, I'm assuming he's going to be talking about Galatians 1:8 again I think he had it up there on the screen highlighting it and everything. So this is an old, tired argument, but let us verify that that's what he's talking about before we discuss it.
Galatians chapter 1, 6-9, Paul writes, I am astonished that you are so quickly deserting him who called you in the grace of Christ and are turning to a different gospel. Not that there is another one, but there are some who trouble you and want to distort the gospel of Christ. But even if we or an angel from heaven should preach to you a gospel contrary to the one we preach to you, let him be accursed. As we have said before, so now I say again, if anyone is preaching to you a gospel contrary to the one you received, let him be accursed.
Okay, let's pause that again. I just want to verify. I know the church has said we can use various translations, and I don't really see anything wrong with what he's reading. I just like the King James, and so I want to look it up. So the King James puts, and I don't think there's anything different in meaning. I just prefer the wording. Anyway, yeah, same basic meaning, the King James and whatever translation is using, so let us see what he says.
Paul is putting a divine curse on anyone or anything that changes the gospel message. But look at that one detail. Even if we or an angel from heaven. But why specify an angel? Because Paul, full of the Spirit of God, was divinely used to counter some of the biggest false belief systems to come in the future. Now fast forward through history, where the birth of Islam begins. In 610 AD, in a cave outside Mecca called Hira, a merchant named Muhammad is meditating alone. According to the most authentic Islamic tradition in Sahih al-Bukhari, an angel appears and commands him to read. Muhammad replies, "I do not know how to read." The angel then catches him forcefully and presses him so hard that he could hardly bear it, doing this 3 times, each time commanding read. Later, being falsely identified as the angel Gabriel, he continues to give him messages over 23 years that would form the Quran. The Quran teaches that Jesus was just a prophet but not God, denying his full divinity. Surah 4:157 also says Jesus did not die on the cross. This is a direct misconstruction of Jesus' divinity, exactly what Paul warned us about. And then there's Mormonism, also known as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Jump to 1823 in upstate New York. A young man named Joseph Smith says he's visited by an angel who goes by the title Moroni. Let's read Joseph's own exact account in History 130-34. "While I was thus in the act of calling upon God, I discovered a light appearing in my room, which continued to increase until the room was lighter than at noonday, when immediately a personage appeared at my bedside, standing in the air, for his feet did not touch the floor. He called me by name, and said unto me that he was a messenger sent from the presence of God to me, and that his name was Moroni, that God had a work for me to do." Supposedly, the angelic being tells him about golden plates buried in a hill that contain ancient records, so Joseph Smith translates them into the Book of Mormon, a new scripture that has nothing to do with the original Bible. Now, shocker alert, the Book of Mormon also denies the divinity of Jesus Christ.
The Book of Mormon does not deny the divinity of Jesus Christ, and he gives this quote here from Alma, which is this is an accurate quote, which states, "Is the Son of God the eternal Father? And Amulek said unto him, Yea, he is the very eternal Father of heaven and of earth." How is that denying the deity of Christ, the divinity of Christ? This guy is where is he getting it? I mean, even in addition to this passage that he quotes, in which Amulek states that he is the eternal Father of heaven and earth, we also have this in Mosiah from the words of Abinadi, "And because he dwelleth in flesh, he shall be called the Son of God, and having subjected the flesh to the will of the Father, being the Father and the Son, the Father because he was conceived by the power of God, and the Son because of the flesh, thus becoming the Father and the Son. And they are one God, yea, the very eternal Father of heaven and of earth." Where's the Book of Mormon denying the divinity of Christ? Of course, he also says that the Book of Mormon has nothing to do with the Bible. The Book of Mormon quotes extensively from the Bible, especially Isaiah, but it quotes extensively from the Bible, from Isaiah. Malachi has a lot from Matthew in 3rd Nephi. It has a lot of quotes all through the Book of Mormon. The Book of Mormon narrative is an extension of the biblical narrative. Without the Bible, the Book of Mormon narrative means nothing. It's nothing. What he really means when he says that it has nothing to do with the Bible, what he's talking about, is that it doesn't agree with his interpretation of Christian doctrine. Not that it's not related to the Bible, not that it's not taken in large part from the Bible, because as I say, it quotes the Bible extensively. But it's that it doesn't agree with his doctrine, and so it can't have anything to do with his doctrine, which it doesn't. I agree with that. It has nothing to do with his doctrine, but that doesn't mean it has nothing to do with the Bible. But let's see if he actually gives us evidence that the Book of Mormon denies the divinity of Christ. Let's see what he has for us.
Joseph Smith taught against the Trinity, denied the fact that Jesus was God, taught his followers that they could be gods, and in the afterlife they could rule on other planets based on the amount of works that they did here on Earth.
Okay, we got a lot of false doctrine here. False claims. Joseph Smith never claimed that Jesus was not God. He did deny the Trinity, because the Trinity is not biblical. There's no place in the Bible that teaches the Trinity. Jesus is the Son of God. He is God. He is one of the Godhead. Can we become gods or become like God? Yes. We will not be ruling over our own planets. That has never been taught. That has been a speculation of some members, but never officially taught as doctrine by any prophet. And it's not based on our works in this life. Well, it's not primarily based on our works in this life. We still need Christ. Nothing is possible without him. So our works come to play, as Christ says. We will be judged according to our works, but that is after Christ has redeemed us. Most Christians will talk about different rewards in heaven. You know, everybody who is in heaven don't all receive the same reward. And that's all we teach, is that Christ redeems us from hell, and all those who enter heaven receive different levels of rewards. But let us see, this is Less than a minute left.
Submitting to these doctrines, denying the fact that Jesus is God, and elevating human beings to godhood places someone under the direct condemnation that Paul pronounced. Tragically, over 2 billion souls have gone astray, following these paths that trace back to angelic encounters. Precisely the very thing that the Apostle Paul told us to watch out for. But why did Paul teach us about this? Because in 2 Corinthians 11:14, he says, "And no wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light." Billions of people follow these belief systems that can be traced back to these angelic encounters, but in reality it was the devil in disguise all along.
Well, now we're just getting into his closing, so we can end that there. Okay, this is the same old tired argument here, and the basic logic as he's putting it out. First of all, you'll note he gives no evidence for any of the claims he makes about the church. Joseph Smith denied Jesus is God. Where's the evidence? He doesn't give it. He just states this as, oh, this is what he teaches. No. It's not what he teaches. Joseph Smith never taught that Jesus was not God. He did teach that Jesus was not the Father. That's not the same thing. Jesus is God. So he doesn't actually present anything to prove what his claims are regarding the LDS Church. He did in reference to Islam. He gave that one quote where it says that Christ did not actually die on the cross, which is a complete contradiction of the gospel. So you have that. With the Book of Mormon, the only reference he gives is a reference that calls Christ the Eternal Father. And then he says the Book of Mormon denies Jesus' divinity, and he says Joseph Smith denied that Jesus is God. It's all nonsense. And he gives no evidence for it. The only reference he gives actually proves him wrong. It proves the opposite of what he's claiming. Now, he wants to tie this back to Paul. Paul warned about angels because Satan can disguise himself as an angel of light, which is true. Now, I will say other places in Scripture refer to Christ being nigh unto an angel of light, and we do read in Moses when God appears to Moses and then Satan appears to him trying to tempt him, and Moses says, when God appeared to me, I had to be transformed by the Spirit in order to endure his presence. Where is your glory? In other words, Satan cannot actually duplicate the true glory of divinity. And angels come in the glory of God. So Satan is transformed into, or nigh unto, an angel of light, not actually an angel of light. And those who have seen a true angel know the difference. But those who haven't can be fooled by it because it is an experience that they are unfamiliar with. But his argument, which is the same old tired argument, is, oh, an angel appeared, it has to be the devil. This is complete nonsense, of course. Angels are still real. Just because Satan can appear as an angel of light doesn't prove that true angels aren't also appearing to others. For this passage in Galatians to mean anything, you first have to prove what the original gospel taught by Paul and those early apostles was. You have to prove what it was originally, and then you have to prove a change. You have to prove that what is now being taught is not what was taught then. And he does that with Islam, because we can read in the scriptures the crucifixion of Christ, the death of Christ, the resurrection of Christ. This is the pillar, the central point of the gospel. Everything else hinges on the resurrection of Christ. When Islam writes that he didn't actually die on the cross, that is a different gospel. We compare it to the Bible, we know it is a different gospel. But it's not because an angel appeared to Muhammad. That is not proof that it is a different gospel. It is only proven to be a different gospel if it is different, or a contradiction, a change from the original gospel. So all these other Christians who are trying to apply this to the LDS Church must first prove what the original gospel was, and then prove how the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has changed that original gospel. In his list of things, almost nothing he said, the only thing he said that is actually accurate to what the LDS Church teaches is that we reject the Trinity. Fine, if he wants to claim that as a change of the gospel, then he first has to prove that Paul or Peter or anybody else, any of the other apostles of Christ, taught the Trinity. So you have to prove what the original was before you can claim a change in the gospel, and therefore that this verse from Galatians applies. Personally, I read Galatians and I see that all other Christian churches are accursed because they accept the Trinity, because the Trinity is not in the Bible. It is not part of the original gospel preached by Paul or Peter or any of the other apostles. It is a change that developed 300 years later. The Christian world changed the gospel. Joseph Smith restored back to the original. So it is the rest of Christianity that Paul is cursing, not the LDS Church. As I say, it's an old, worn-out claim that is truly meaningless when you actually think about it.